On April 22, 2025, Burkina Faso's military government made a startling announcement. The nation was gripped by tension as the news spread. They had successfully stopped a coup attempt. The swift action of the military was both praised and questioned by various factions within the country. This plot, they claimed, was a serious threat to their rule. The evidence presented included weapons and documents that pointed to a well-organized effort to overthrow the government. The junta, led by Captain Ibrahim Traoré, quickly moved to reassure the public. They were in control. The situation was stable. Traoré's calm demeanor was meant to instill confidence, but many remained skeptical. This was not the first challenge to Traoré's authority. His leadership has been marked by numerous attempts to destabilize his rule. He came to power through a coup in 2022. The initial support he garnered has since waned as the country grapples with ongoing issues. Since then, Burkina Faso has faced growing instability. The streets often echo with the sounds of unrest, and the air is thick with uncertainty. Armed groups control large parts of the country. Terrorist attacks are frequent. The government's reach is limited, and many regions operate under their own rules. The population lives in fear. Daily life is a constant struggle, with many seeking refuge in more secure areas. The government's swift action against this coup plot sent a message. They would not tolerate any attempts to undermine their authority. They would tolerate no dissent. Curfews were enforced, and protests were quickly dispersed to maintain order. But it also exposed the fragility of their hold on power. The constant vigilance required to maintain control is a testament to the underlying instability. Burkina Faso remains a nation on edge. Every day brings new challenges and uncertainties. The threat of violence, both internal and external, is a constant reality. Citizens remain vigilant, always aware of the potential for conflict. The international community watched with concern. Analysts and diplomats closely monitored the situation, aware of its broader implications. The African Union and the Economic Community of West African States, or ECOWAS, condemned the coup attempt. Their statements were clear and firm. They called for calm and a return to constitutional order. The hope was to restore stability through diplomatic means, but their influence over Burkina Faso is limited. The country's internal dynamics often overshadow external pressures. The country has drifted away from its traditional allies. New alliances are being formed, but the future remains uncertain. The junta released few details about the coup plot. They claimed it involved both current and former soldiers. These individuals, they alleged, were working with terrorist leaders. Their goal was to overthrow the government and seize control. The plan was audacious. On April 16, 2025, the plotters would attack key locations in the capital, Ouagadougou. Their main target was the presidential palace, the seat of government. They aimed to create chaos and confusion. In the ensuing disorder, they would install their own leader. Their ultimate objective, according to the junta, was to place Burkina Faso under international supervision. This implies a willingness to cede sovereignty to foreign powers. Whether this was a genuine goal of the plotters, or propaganda by the junta, is unclear. The alleged involvement of terrorists adds another layer of complexity. Burkina Faso is battling a growing Islamist insurgency. These groups have exploited the country's instability to gain a foothold. Their participation in a coup attempt would have serious implications for the region's security. The Burkinabe government did not hesitate to point fingers. They accused Ivory Coast of harboring the coup plotters. Tensions between the two countries have been high since Traoré's rise to power. He has repeatedly accused Ivory Coast of supporting his opponents. Two former Burkinabe army officers living in Ivory Coast were identified as key figures in the plot. Major Joanny Compaoré and Lieutenant Abdramani Berry were accused of orchestrating the coup attempt from exile. The Burkinabe government demanded their extradition to face charges. Ivory Coast denied any involvement in the plot. They dismissed the accusations as baseless and politically motivated. The Ivorian government insisted that they respected Burkina Faso's sovereignty. They would not allow their territory to be used to destabilize their neighbor. The African Union and ECOWAS called for an independent investigation into the coup attempt. They urged both Burkina Faso and Ivory Coast to exercise restraint. The situation remained tense. The accusations and denials only deepened the mistrust between the two countries. Following the foiled coup, the junta launched a wave of arrests. They detained several military personnel suspected of involvement. Among those arrested was Commander Ouedraogo Frederick, a high-ranking officer. A dozen other officers and non-commissioned officers were also taken into custody. The government provided little information about the detainees or the evidence against them. They were held incommunicado, denied access to lawyers or family members. Human rights groups expressed concern about the arrests. They criticized the lack of transparency and due process. They feared that the junta was using the coup attempt as a pretext to silence its critics. The arrests sent a chilling message to anyone who dared to question the military's authority. The government defended its actions, claiming they were necessary to maintain order and security. They insisted that the detainees would receive a fair trial. However, given the junta's track record of suppressing dissent, these assurances rang hollow. The arrests further eroded trust in the government and deepened the country's political crisis. Section 5. Traoré's rise to power. Captain Ibrahim Traoré is a relatively unknown figure who emerged from obscurity. He seized power in a coup in September 2022, overthrowing the then military leader, Lieutenant Colonel Paul-Henri Sandaogo Damiba. Traoré justified his actions by accusing Damiba of failing to address the country's security crisis. The nation had been grappling with escalating violence and instability, primarily due to the Islamist insurgency that had plagued the region for years. Traoré, a young officer, presented himself as a strongman who could restore order and defeat the Islamist insurgency. He promised to prioritize security and improve the lives of ordinary Burkinabe. However, his grip on power has been tenuous from the start. His rule has been marked by a crackdown on dissent, human rights abuses, and a deteriorating security situation. The foiled coup attempt is a testament to the deep divisions and instability that plague Burkina Faso. Traoré's ability to consolidate power and address the country's challenges remains uncertain. The international community has condemned Traoré's seizure of power and called for a return to constitutional rule. However, Traoré has shown little interest in relinquishing power. He has instead sought to consolidate his control and silence his critics. Despite his promises, the security situation has not significantly improved, and many Burkinabe continue to live in fear and uncertainty. The future of Burkina Faso under Traoré's leadership remains highly unpredictable, with many questioning whether he can deliver on his promises or if the country will continue to spiral into further chaos. The international community has condemned Traoré's seizure of power and called for a return to constitutional rule. However, Traoré has shown little interest in relinquishing power. He has instead sought to consolidate his control and silence his critics. Section 6. A nation under siege. Burkina Faso is facing an unprecedented crisis. Islamist militants control an estimated 40% of the country. Violence has displaced over 2 million people, creating a humanitarian catastrophe. The 2024 Global Terrorism Index ranked Burkina Faso first in terrorism-related deaths. The insurgency, linked to Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State, began in 2015. It has spread rapidly, exploiting government corruption, ethnic tensions, and poverty. The militants have targeted civilians, security forces, and government officials, creating a climate of fear and instability. The security forces have struggled to contain the insurgency. They are outgunned, outmaneuvered, and demoralized. The government's response has been characterized by heavy-handed tactics and human rights abuses, which have further alienated the population. The international community has provided limited support to Burkina Faso. France, the former colonial power, withdrew its troops in 2022 after a dispute with the Junta. The United States has provided some military assistance, but its involvement is limited. Section 7. Regional tensions. The foiled coup attempt has exacerbated regional tensions. Burkina Faso's relations with its neighbors, particularly Ivory Coast, have been strained for years. Traoré's accusations of Ivorian involvement in the plot have further deepened mistrust. Ivory Coast has denied any involvement in the coup attempt, but the accusations have fueled suspicion and animosity. The two countries have a history of border disputes and political rivalry. The current crisis could escalate into a broader regional conflict. The Economic Community of West African States, or ECOWAS, has called for calm and dialogue. However, ECOWAS's influence over Burkina Faso is limited. The country has distanced itself from the regional bloc, which it accuses of being controlled by Western powers. The regional implications of the foiled coup attempt are significant. Instability in Burkina Faso could spill over into neighboring countries, many of which are already grappling with their own security challenges. Section 8. Shifting alliances. In recent years, Burkina Faso has undergone a significant foreign policy shift, marking a new chapter in its international relations. It has drifted away from its traditional allies such as France and the United States, and strengthened ties with Russia. This pivot is not just a political maneuver, but a strategic realignment that reflects the changing dynamics of global power. Traoré has praised Russia's military intervention in Ukraine and sought to deepen cooperation with Moscow. His administration believes that Russia's military expertise and resources can provide the support needed to tackle internal and regional security challenges. This shift is part of a broader trend in West Africa, where several countries have turned to Russia as a security partner. The region's leaders are increasingly looking eastward, seeking alternatives to Western influence. Russia has been accused of supporting mercenaries and providing military equipment to these countries. These actions have raised concerns among Western nations about the growing Russian footprint in Africa. Burkina Faso, along with Mali and Niger, recently formed a new alliance breaking away from ECOWAS. This new coalition aims to create a unified front to address common security threats and reduce dependency on Western powers. This new bloc is seen as a challenge to France's influence in the region. Anti-France sentiments have been growing, fueled by perceptions of neo-colonialism and dissatisfaction with French military interventions. It remains to be seen how this new alliance will develop, and what impact it will have on the region's security landscape. The evolving geopolitical landscape in West Africa is a testament to the shifting allegiances and the quest for new partnerships. The foiled coup attempt is likely to further push Burkina Faso into Russia's orbit. The instability within the country makes the need for a strong and reliable ally even more pressing. Traoré may see Moscow as a more reliable partner in his fight against the Islamist insurgency. As Burkina Faso navigates these turbulent times, its alliances will play a crucial role in shaping its future. Section 9. An uncertain future. The foiled coup attempt in Burkina Faso is a stark reminder of the challenges facing the country. The junta's grip on power remains tenuous, and the security situation continues to deteriorate. The country is deeply divided, and the threat of violence is ever present. The international community's efforts to resolve the crisis have been ineffective. ECOWAS's influence is limited, and Western powers are reluctant to get more deeply involved. Russia's growing influence in the region adds another layer of complexity. The future of Burkina Faso remains uncertain. The country is on a dangerous trajectory, and the risk of further violence and instability is high. The international community must act urgently to prevent a humanitarian catastrophe and help Burkina Faso find a path to peace and stability.